Hello, grade 9. How are you? Hope you all are safe and well. Today, we will study an inquiry lesson about how to select ideas to test circuits. But first, let's have a quick review about circuits. Previously, we studied about circuits, simple and parallel circuits. Also, we learned about current, voltage, and resistance. What is a current? Current is the flow of charge or electrons per second. And we use an ammeter device to measure the current and ampere or amps as a unit. Voltage. Voltage is a measure of the strength of a cell or a battery used to send current around the circuits. Voltmeter is the device and we measure it with a unit called volts. So what about resistance? Resistance is how difficult it is for the current to flow through a component in a circuit. We studied also about the law of the current. Current equals voltage over resistance. And we don't need to forget that current is inversely proportional with the resistance. And that means if the voltage stayed the same, and current increased, that means the resistance decreases, and vice versa. This was the revision of the previous lessons. Okay guys, let's start our lesson. First, I need you to take out your notebooks, please, and start to take these notes. Start to write down these notes, please. Okay, if you are done, please open page 198 and let's start our lesson. Selecting ideas to test circuits. Please, I need you to take your highlighter and highlight these points that I highlighted. So, selecting ideas to test circuits. Chaitanya, Dipali and Lakshima have been learning about current and voltage. Their teacher explained that the current flowing in a component depends on the voltage of the battery and the resistance of the component. If the voltage stays the same, then increasing the resistance will make the current smaller. Changing resistance. Asking questions. Chaitanya has noticed that the filament of the lamps and that they use in their experiments is made of very thin wire. Dipali looks at the filament. She notices that it's curled up and thinks that it must be very long. Lakshima wonders what the filament is made of. These are their ideas. Chaitanya said, "I wonder how the resistance of the wire depends on the thickness of the wire." Dipali said, "I wonder how the resistance of the wire depends on the length of the wire." And Lakshima said, "I wonder how the resistance of the wire depends on the material that the wire is made of." So all these questions are scientific questions, and these questions, they selected questions that they can collect data about it. So they can solve, or they can get their answers, okay? So the students list variables in their investigations. They have these variables: the length of the wire, thickness of the wire, the material that the wire is made of, and the voltage of the battery. We don't need to forget that we need to choose only one changeable variable and keep everything the same to get reliable fair test, to make our test fair. And when you are choosing ideas to test, you need to make sure that they can be tested by collecting data. All these questions involve variables that the students can change. So these students, they can change the length of the wire or thickness of the wire, thicknesses, or using different thicknesses, or they can change the material that the wire is made of. And they need to choose a voltage of the battery. In this investigation, we will choose low voltage, so we can reduce and we can control the risks. A student might wonder, they can control the other variables so that the data show the link between their chosen variable and the resistance of the wire. A student might wonder if some bulbs look brighter than others to different people. This is an interesting question, but not one that you can collect data to test, because students or people, they have different sights, and they cannot in this way you cannot make your test fair. Let's go to the next page. The students decide to investigate the length of the wire. So this is the variable that they want to change. So in this way, as I said earlier, they have to keep everything, the other things the same. They should keep the thickness of the wire the same, the three wires that they want to use, and they have to keep the same voltage of the battery, and they have to choose the same material that the wire is made of. Okay, they will measure the current that flows through different lengths of the wire. This will show them how the resistance changes as they change the length. They need to keep the thickness of the wire, the material that the wire is made of, and the voltage of the battery is the same. And we said earlier, these variables that we need to keep the same, we call it control variable. Okay? Planning and investigative work, preliminary work. We need to use a preliminary work here to work out which type of the wire we need to use, or any materials with the suitable materials, the suitable voltage of the battery, or anything we want to use. It's like simple test or primary test to our equipments or our materials or our evidence. Which thickness of the wire and which voltage to use. They do some preliminary work to help them decide how to do the experiment safely and how to get a good range of results. So this is all with this preliminary work. They use secondary sources to find the most suitable wire. They try out different voltages for different lengths of wire. So we said earlier about secondary source. Sometimes it's hard to find data or to collect information about anything else, or you have simple information and you need more information about your test. So it's okay to use a secondary source as books, as researches, scientific journals, internet, Google, anything help you to make your test simple and save time, and also to take more information about your test or your investigation. And they notice that the wire gets very hot for high voltages, so they chose to a voltage of 1 volt. Okay, and now let's see how to choose equipments. Okay, so how do we choose our equipments? In this case, the students use a digital ammeter to measure the current in the wire, and the ammeter will measure the current to the nearest 0.1 ammeter. That's why they chose to use digital ammeter, because digital ammeter is more accurate than the analog one. They decide to change the length using clips to connect to different positions on the wire. So as you can see here in this picture on your right, they have we have here in this picture we have here the circuit that they want to use for their investigation, and we have the positive cell made of two batteries, battery made of two cells, and ammeter, clips, and an extension of the wire. Okay, so here let's go back to our text. Sorry. They decide to change the length using clips to connect to different positions on the wire. They will use a meter ruler to measure the length of the wire between the clips. They can measure the length to the nearest 1 millimeter. So this is their equipment they want to use. They choose to use 1.5 voltage battery voltage, meter ruler, and digital ammeter. In our investigations or our projects, we need to assess a hazard. This is very important, and we talked about this many times during our lessons. It's important to assess your hazard to control the risk and control the risk. This is very important. The students here know that the wire can get very hot. They put the wire on a heat-proof mat and do not leave the wire connected to the battery for very long, because this can lead to burns. Sometimes if the wire got so hot, the insulator layer will melt, and this can cause sometimes even a small shock with the battery if the battery is strong voltage. Okay, what about obtaining and considering evidence? How can we obtain and consider evidence? In our inquiries lessons and in our lab lessons before, we talked about how can we collect evidence and how can we make our results more reliable. This is very important. In our experiments or tests, we need to repeat the test more than one time, sometimes 3 times, 4 times, and we need to take the average. But before taking the average, we have to discard any anomalous results, which is unknown results or false result, or our mistakes. We can say our mistakes. Okay, to be able to do this, we need to choose a more neat, more organized way, which is using graphs, charts, any way to make our results, to represent our results and to plot our data in. We can use line graph, bar chart, or pie chart. Okay, the students collect evidence by measuring the current for different lengths of the wire. They repeat each experiment 3 times to make the results more reliable. This is so important. As we said, before calculating any average, they discard any anomalous results, and they plot a graph to try to find a pattern in their results. That's why we need to use graphs or charts. Graphs make us able to see any pattern or identify any pattern, identify any anomalous result that we had, and in this case we can correct the mistake, and we don't need to repeat the whole test all over again. We just need to check our results, which step exactly we made wrong, and we need to repeat that. This will help them make a conclusion about the link between the current and the length of the wire. So this was all about our lesson today, about how can we select ideas, and let's go back to the summary of the lesson. First, as we said, we need to ask questions and we need to suggest an explanation, planning and investigation, which is preliminary work, choose your equipment, assessing hazard and controlling risk, obtaining evidence. So this was all about this lesson. I hope you understood it. Don't forget that you have homework, which is the yellow box here in page 199, and please, if you have any question, write it down and I will check it with you later. Okay, stay safe and see you soon, inshallah. Bye bye.